What's up, current and future disc golf addicts? We are back with the 2025 DSA Match Play Final, Zoetermeer edition. Starting off with Filip, our repeat finalist from the Rotterdam edition, against Dennis, an active player here in the Zoetermeer community. As we start with hole 1, a recent change with a new pin position. We are looking at a 112-meter hyzer for your right-hand players. The bush line has also been thinned out, meaning that it's not as punishing as it would have previously been should you turn your drive over too much. With Filip's power though, he has no problem avoiding that, playing that pure hyzer. As we watch Dennis play a little bit more of a flex line, we're already getting a look at some of these windy conditions we are playing in, holding that drive over the whole way. Dennis a very aggressive spin putter though, so putting that up there close to the basket. Filip with an outside look, leaking a little high into that headwind, and a tester for his par here. But already off to a great start, building a little bit more confidence on that putt. Which brings us to hole 2 of the dark blue layout. We're looking at a 109-meter, 357-foot straight shot with a OB fence line and water behind the basket. A very dangerous green. You have to be very careful watching the speed you're coming in at. Filip playing this hyzer line with what I think was his D2. Catching those trees on the other side of the fence line and dropping OB, meaning that he has to move quite a ways back. Dennis, seeing that, keeps his drive a little lower, but still 2 turned over. So we watch Filip here throw his third, pitching up, flexing out nicely next to the basket. Dennis, after his upshot, ends up in the bushes. Fortunately didn't find the water, but with that high putt, does miss out on an opportunity to go one up there. We move on to hole 3, 56-meter, our short little woods hole where you want to finish just off to the right side. With that gap being so tight, you can make a backhand or a forehand work. You don't necessarily have to move right. So this is something that you'll frequently see people do with that forehand. And both of them making the hole look very easy there, hitting that gap. Dennis just getting to pick up his disc that was under the basket. Hole 4, we're looking at a new tee placement, 55-meter, 180-foot uphill straight shot with those guardian tree lines on the edge of the water, which can bring in a lot of danger if you're not hitting that gap. Filip's pushing the left side intentionally with that forehand and D5. Dennis is seeing a zone here. Does pull it over a touch in that right side guardian tree. Ends up dropping in bounds. But still a very tricky spot, seeing that Filip is up there putting for a birdie. A fantastic putt there from Filip, floating it right in there. Hole 5, 79-meter, 259-foot hole. This bike path is OB off the left and some water far off low right. You can either play that backhand or rely on this more open left-hand side as long as you avoid the light posts, like Filip is showing us here. Dennis, we're going to be seeing a little bit of an in-between solution, playing a more direct backhand line with some of those trees on the backhand hyzer line growing in a little bit too much. And a long look from the back edge of circle 2. Filip with a little bit of a deft putt there. We see him take off some pace on the putt, but putting him up 2 through 5. Hole 6, 128 meter, 420 foot downhill hole. Plenty of danger to be found where that road is OB on the right. Bike path across the fairway is an OB river, and then you have water as well behind the basket. Filip opting to play the safer forehand shot, and with his distance he's still comfortable going over, meaning that he won't have too much left for an upshot. Dennis trying to flex something over. We watch it unravel and come back. Filip pitching up. Maybe not as close as he would like, but still well within makeable range. And Dennis with another opportunity, making that high. Fortunate there, does end up pushing that OB line. And that comebacker staying high. Another band hit. Unforced error there by Dennis, and Filip gets another point on the board, bringing us to hole 7, par 4, 151 meter, 2 fairways. We're watching this hole preview over the right side, throwing a straight shot off the tee and then a big blind hyzer towards the basket. You do also have this left side fairway, which does contend a lot more with the bike path that is OB up and over. Filip trying to lay up for this left-hand fairway, but with that slope ends up skipping further than he would have expected, just not hanging the drive out. Dennis seeing that, make sure he commits to the proper width, puts himself in a good spot. Even though Filip's drive might have been a little bit short than most people would like, with his power he still pushes that spike hyzer and actually ends up going deep of the basket. Dennis, we're watching him grab the same disc if I'm not mistaken. A little bit too much flex on it, not pushing as far right as needed towards the basket. And we have 2 outside looks at birdie. Another green where it can get very windy here in Zoetermeer. Moving on to hole 8, 97 meter, 317 foot downhill. Bush line on the right, not OB, but you won't find a putt if you end up going in there. And you do have this wrapping OB path all along the left side and past the basket. So making sure to keep it low with that wind, usually picking up discs and the tee area being a little bit more protected. If you watch Dennis's shot being held over. Still landing inbounds, this gravel path is not the OB line, but rather the bike path around it. Facing a little bit of pressure here, knowing that Filip has been putting well and is close. And another textbook putt there. Hole 9, 120 meter, dead straight shot. Basket precariously placed on this little mound. Very tricky hole to navigate with that bush line on the right side, forcing you to essentially throw a power hyzer flip backhand, or if you have the power like Filip does here, throwing a all-out flex forehand. The gap off the tee has opened up a little bit, especially now approaching winter time. But this is the most common mistake you will see on this hole. Turning something over to the right. Fortunately for Dennis, didn't go in further than this initial gap that he ended up finding, trying to pitch up. Filip, seeing Dennis's approach coming up short, lays up, and all pressure on Dennis now. Leaving it low, bringing Filip up 5 through 9 holes now. Onto hole 10, we're looking at a par 4, 230 meter, 756 foot hole. OB parking lot by the basket and road should you find it, but practically no danger. A gap initially off the tee, and as you approach the basket, let's see what these guys will do. Filip looking to unleash on a drive here. Nice in the middle of the field. Dennis putting a good move on the disc as well. The landing spot isn't very defined on this hole, so a little bit of personal preference if you have the luxury of having that distance. Dennis throwing the backhand through the initial gap in the fence. He's in circle 2. Filip taking the wider hyzer line, pushing around the initial bushes and finding himself closer to edge of circle 1, but still outside. Dennis leaving his attempt a little low there. Same for Filip. And the guys talking through and just picking up the discs, moving on. Hole 11, 94 meter, 307 foot hole, OB left, long, and right. Initial gap makes for a low ceiling, and with that bush line right in front of you can make it tricky, but again, playing it closer to this late autumn, early winter time, it's not too much in your head here as Filip leans on his flex forehand again, one of his strong suits. Dennis playing more of a hyzer line, pushing a little deep of the basket there. Fortunate actually to not find that OB road long. Just barely off again with those high putts. Finding another band hit. starting to become do or die time for Dennis here, with Filip up 6 through 11. Hole 12, par 4, initial Mando off the tee, forcing you to throw this low ceiling shot, and then a late Mando, forcing the approach for a left to right shape rather than a hyzer over the water. And the OB path wrapping left side all the way up to the basket. Filip leaning on his forehand again for his gap shots, disking down to a tempo, seeing that he does not need to get aggressive here. Dennis going for some more distance off the tee, trying to open up that up shot. Pretty common landing spot where Filip finds himself, taking his deflector, throwing it wide left, pushing that path, OB path, but then skipping back slowly. Not too much skip though to be found, so he has a long putt. Dennis challenging that Mando tree. And the guys actually deemed that it was a missed Mando, bringing Dennis for a par putt from the drop zone. And a comebacker for 5. Meaning that Filip has a couple strokes to play with here. A formality here. Shame to miss, but ultimately a meaningless putt with the match being over. And Filip being crowned your Zoetermeer 2025 match play champion and a double winner in 2025. We take a look at our match play wall of champions again. If you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and tune back in for the Nieuwegein Match Play Championship. Thanks for watching.